Hello and welcome to Fog War Games. Now, this was going to be quite a short video of me attempting to catch up on my painting. As you know, this week I've been running around chasing sheep and trying to catch them and put them back in and keep them in. Unfortunately that hasn't worked out, so I was going to try and speed up the process and do a little dry brushing. So let's get into the video. Now, I did have a load of content filmed this afternoon, however, none of it saved. So this is going to be an even shorter video this week. So I do apologise if you're hoping for some war waffle and just talking crap basically, whilst me trying to attempt to dry brush, because I thought, why not? Let's give dry brushing a bit of a go. It might speed stuff up, and it kind of did. Don't get me wrong, there are some bits I did with a normal brush because I thought I'd do both. As you can see here, it's worked out okay. There are some bits I've missed, and the colour hasn't come out quite as well as brushing it on. However, obviously once we put the shade on, once we've put the shade on, it kind of darkens it out anyway. So what I'll do now, I have managed to, there is a few minutes of me dry brushing. I'm going to put that on now for you guys to see how I did it, just so you know there was no chicanery, etc. And some here you can obviously see I've brushed that on with a normal brush rather than dry brushing, just to see which one worked out better. But this one here, as you can see, I have dry brushed the whole thing, and it's worked out okay. I'm actually pretty happy with it. I know it looks a bit rough and ready, but actually I think once we put the wash on and stuff, I will touch up on a few bits. Where's the geezer? Here he is. As you can see, I've obviously touched, I don't know why his arm didn't work out quite so well, and obviously I've missed a few bits in there, but his arm didn't work out quite so well. And where I dry brushed along here on his back, obviously I'd got some over the uniform as well, so I touched it back up, as you can see here, just to neaten it up a little bit. But actually, apart from that, I managed to do all of these guys pretty much the same. Obviously, like I said, I did use a normal brush for some, but I did dry brush all of the uniform colour on just to get it on there, and I covered the, you'll see in the clip, I covered quite a lot. What you can see there on his backpack, look, I got the paint everywhere. It was very messy, but my thought was, well, if I can get the main colours down, it should speed things up, and then I can paint over what I've messed up on. And it, you know, like I said, on some bits it's worked quite well. So let's get into how I did it, and then we'll talk after. Obviously you're not going to be able to see the finished models this week, and I've run out of time for painting. I've got to go and do life stuff and adulting, but I am a bit more motivated now, I think, after getting all of these done. It's actually helped my motivation a little bit. I really wanted to paint them this week, and have a video this week of basically hyping up, getting ready to play. The Ministry of Miniatures has very kindly said that he'll teach me how to play bolt action with these guys, so I have got a bit of motivation there now to get them done as quick as possible so we can get that game in, and then continue from there, really. Obviously, as you know, I'm not a professional painter, so actually you know, the messiness doesn't bother me that much, actually. It does a little bit, but not, you know, I'm confident once they're all done, and all the other colours are on, you know, like the gunmetal and the brown for the rifles and stuff, and the camo netting and stuff like that on the helmets. I'm really hoping that, and fairly confident that they're going to look okay. But anyway, here's how I did it. Okay, so let's give this dry brushing a go. As you can see, I'd kind of already started. Excuse the sausage fingers in the way there. But I realised it was working, so I thought, let's keep going with it. So all I do, dab a little bit of paint on my dry brush, get a fair amount off, because obviously I've got a large covering to do, and then I just start, well, I would say a mix of dry brushing and stippling, but let's face it, I'm no professional here, and basically just getting the whole model covered in the basic uniform colour, because the idea is I can come back later on once the, I would say base coat is on, but it's not really the base coat. It's more of, I'm going to cover all the areas as best I can with the uniform colour, and then I'll go back later on with the finer detail. Just getting it all in there. Now, as you've already seen, I definitely missed some of the areas, so I will have to go back over that. I'm using the Artist Opus D series brush here. Let me just have a quick look and see what size. Oh, it doesn't say a size. It's basically the dry brushes I'm using today are the two smallest. This is the second smallest. It's not the smallest, but close enough. Mainly because it's already messy as it is, and I didn't want to make it even more messier, basically. And it does turn up all right. I was pretty happy with it. I mean, like I said, there's a few areas that I do need to go back over again. But then, do I? I don't know. Like, once I put the wash on, are you going to be able to see it? I don't know whether you are or not. Let me know down in the comments how you, because obviously this is a bit of an experiment. I attempted dry brushing in the past, as you've seen, with the helmets, and I think that went pretty well. That did work really well, but there wasn't really any scope for it to go wrong there. I've done it on a Lehman Russ tank, mainly because it just added coverage. I don't have an air sprayer, whatever you call them. I don't have one. They're quite pricey. Also, for me, they're quite noisy. And ideally, I'd rather not. Although, perhaps in the future, I'll get one. But for now, I thought, well, I've done the Lehman Russ tank before, dry brushing, and I got the coverage really quickly. It really sped things up. So hence why I'm doing it like this. Just let me know what you guys think. Whether you guys think actually you're onto something there. Okay, it's not perfect, but if you want a quick batch paint, and you're not too fussed about going back later on and just tidying up, great. Or let me know down in the comments if you think it's a complete failure. Either way, I'll be happy, because it was, like I said, today was a bit of an experiment, and also I've been really struggling with motivation this week, as well as it being extremely busy. Now, as I've said in the past, I'm not a massive fan of painting, so actually when there's hardly any motivation there, I do really struggle. I think today, I'll be honest, before I started painting, hence why the camera's at a different angle as it has been, I sorted out the desk effectively. I put another monitor up to help with doing the online store. I sorted out all the stock and put it away. Honestly, I was literally surrounded by boxes. So it gave me a bit more room without having more room, if that makes sense. I just felt like so that helped a lot today, and also the motivation to get, not drag out this series of videos, because I'm sure you guys want to see something else, instead of me just painting the same soldiers over and over again and going through the same steps. So I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. And like I keep saying, I think it's worked out quite well. In some areas it hasn't, and I wonder if that's just I haven't put on enough paint, or in some, I can assure you in some cases I've definitely put on more paint, and as everyone knows, it really doesn't dry very well. If you put too much paint on, it leaves a quite poor finish, but that's not the end of the world. I think painting for everyone is a bit of an experiment, especially when you're starting out. As I've said before, there are so many different techniques. I don't do any of them correctly. I try, but it's just practice. And because I don't paint all the time, I'm definitely not there with my painting yet. But to be honest, I am semi-happy with it. Especially the 4 guys that we finished in the last video, I'm actually really happy with those. But I just needed something to speed it up, because those 4 soldiers did take a while. But I guess we were chatting through stuff, so that's probably why as well. That doesn't help. I blame you guys for the waffle. So yeah, let me know what you think of the base colour. Now, once they're all done, I then moved on to the straps. So in this one, I'm using the very smallest dry brush, as you can see there. Okay, and it's the same principle. You put a tiny bit of paint on, you put on a bit of paint, get off the excess, put my teeth back in, and then have at it. Now, like painting with normal brushes, the different pressures you apply to the brush affect how the paint goes on. Now, obviously for this one, you are trying to hit the raised edges, and yeah, it kind of works. Obviously very difficult. I know you can't see here. Well, I'm trying to show you, but my sausage fingers get in the way. Very hard to do the front, I'll be honest, because there was a lot of raised edges. But my thought behind it as I was doing it was, well, actually that kind of doesn't matter, because if you're going over it again, it will add a shade ish, like different sort of colours on random parts of the uniform. And if these guys have been fighting through Normandy and into the rest of France and Holland and all of that, and up to Germany, they're not going to get fresh uniforms all the time, and they're probably, their main uniform, they're probably going to wear it until it's literally falling apart. So the colours you see on the uniform in pictures and stuff, obviously granted most are in black and white, but I meant on the box art, should I say, that's pretty much parade ground. That's fresh out the stores. That's, so, okay, I'm trying to make an excuse for my poor painting, but hear me out, right? I've gone for a weathered look, whether I like it or not. And actually, as I've said to you before, when you're a foot, 2 foot away from the table, you aren't going to see a lot of the detail. I could go around and put brass buttons on everything. I could do that. And, I have done it in the past. I've certainly done it for some of my Warhammer, because I was going for the Praetorian Guard. And if some of you don't know, they're in red coats, white pith helmets, all of that good sort of stuff. So they're old school British military. And, that look, you want to be looking parade ground. You want to have, their, red coats throughout history, you know, they polished everything to within an inch of its life, and I did, you know, with some of my kit. What the thing I absolutely hated. I know, shouldn't have joined the regiment I joined, but that's the way it is. And sometimes that's great, but yeah, getting back to it, the redcoats, they wanted to be seen, right? So they blancoed all their white bits, they brassoed all their brass bits, and polished everything else, buffed everything else, because they wanted to stand out. Whereas during the Second War, they didn't want to stand out. You know, they wanted to blend in. I know they're not wearing camo, but they're wearing khaki, which, you know, suggests that they're starting to get the idea that you want to hide your troops. Hence the netting, the camo netting, the bits of material on top of the helmet to break up the shape of the helmet. That's what they were trying to do. So they don't need to have, you know, they're not on the parade ground, they're fighting. They don't need to be polished up. So yes, so part of it is an excuse for my bad painting, but also part of it is the way I wanted to go with it ultimately. If I'd painted them all properly, I probably would have not only shoved a load of wash on, but I probably would have shoved quite a bit of streaking grime on, just to dirty them up a little bit, and make them look like they've been in battle. I can assure you, within 2 weeks of riding around the desert, I didn't look battleground fresh, and my kit, it was dirty. Everything was absolutely filthy, and it didn't look like it did when it came out the stores. So that's my excuse for the bad painting. I do apologise. But again, let me know what you think. Let me know whether you think this was a good idea to do the straps like that. I found on some I did really well. I'll be honest, it depends on how much I was concentrating, because at the time I was watching Poldark, one of my favourite programmes, well, re-watching for the 100th time. What can I say? It's just one of my favourite programmes. But anyway, I digress. So I hope you've now seen, you know, what I did and how I did it. So you know there was no bluff. So if you see a finished picture, you know that I definitely made a lot of mistakes. And I can assure you one of the arms fell off. Okay, so now you've seen how I've done it. Let me know down in the comments what you think I did wrong. There were lots of things I did wrong. Obviously, as I've said, I'm not a professional painter, and this isn't a tutorial. This is me just trying to do it quickly and get away with it, ultimately. And dry brushing is something that is still fairly new. I know I didn't do it right. You know, there was some questionable dry brushing and some questionable stippling in there. But yeah, let me know down in the comments. You know, I do, obviously we stock Artist Opus, and I have watched some of their dry brushing videos. I did try and find a quick one before I started painting, just to sort of, excuse the pun, but brush up on my dry brushing. But the video I found quickly was on a bigger model, and I thought, I'm still going to give it a go. So I did, as you can see. But yeah, let me know how you think I got on, what you think I could change, or whether you just think it was actually quite a good idea, and wish me luck painting the rest of it. But now I've got, like I said, now I've got the motivation. I'm hoping to have these done by the end of this week, by the end of this next week, should I say. But obviously that is all sheep dependent, unfortunately. But fingers crossed. Well, that's it for this week. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. I know I keep ramming it home, but please like, subscribe and comment below. Comments are always helpful. I love the feedback. and people asking questions. If I can answer them, I will. If not, I will certainly ask one of the painters and then tell you the answer. If you'd like to help support the channel, please head over to Buy Me a Coffee, where you'll find lots of exclusive content, including pre-releases, especially for our new basing range. You'll get to chat to the painters that we support and also get lots more sheep content and behind the scenes. Alternatively, you can also support us by heading over to the store, foggerwargames.co.uk, where you'll be able to find this kit that I've been trying to finish, and much, much more. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.